Two men walked into hell knowing they would not walk out together. One would carry the weight of survival. The other would become a name carved into stone. Between them and 300 entrenched Japanese Marines stood 60 yards of open ground, a shattered house, and a decision that would rewrite the mathematics of courage. This is not a story about heroes. This is a story about what happens when the only choice left is the one that kills you. February 9, 1945. Manila is burning. The city that was once called the Pearl of the Orient has become a furnace of concrete and flesh. Smoke rises in columns so thick they blot out the tropical sun, turning afternoon into a sepia twilight that stinks of cordite and decay. The streets are no longer streets. They are killing corridors lined with the husks of buildings, each window a potential grave, each doorway a mouth waiting to swallow men whole. The battle has been raging for days, and the Japanese Imperial Navy Marines defending Manila have made a decision that will define the horror to come. They will not surrender. They will not retreat. They will turn every block into a fortress and every room into a tomb. Somewhere in the Paco district, where the railroad station squats like a concrete bunker amid the ruins, a platoon of United States Army soldiers is learning what that decision means. They are pinned down, completely, 100 yards from their objective, close enough to see the muzzle flashes from the station windows, close enough to hear the screams of Japanese officers rallying their men, close enough to smell the sharp metallic scent of blood mixing with dust. But they might as well be 1,000 miles away. The distance between them and that station is measured not in yards but in lives, and they have already spent too many. 2 assaults, 2 failures. The bodies of their brothers lie crumpled in the rubble ahead, some still visible, some buried under collapsed masonry, all beyond reach. The men who are left crouch behind shattered walls and overturned vehicles, breathing hard, fingers trembling as they reload magazines and check ammunition counts that are dropping too fast. Their lieutenant is trying to raise battalion on the radio, his voice tight with controlled panic, asking for artillery support, for airstrikes, for anything that can break the stalemate. The answer comes back clipped and final. Negative, civilians in the area, danger close, you are on your own. The Japanese know this. They have been in Manila long enough to understand that the Americans will hesitate when Filipino lives are at stake. They have packed the surrounding buildings with non-combatants, human shields who cannot run because there is nowhere left to run. The Marines inside Paco Railroad Station number approximately 300, dug in with interlocking fields of fire, heavy machine guns, grenade dischargers, and enough ammunition to hold that position for weeks. They have turned the station into a fortress with walls thick enough to shrug off rifle fire and firing ports positioned to cover every approach. The bodies from the first 2 assaults are their propaganda, their psychological weapon. Come and join them, the corpses say. Come and die like your friends. Private Cleto Rodriguez knows how this ends. He has seen enough combat to read the equations written in blood and fire. The platoon cannot stay here. They cannot advance. They cannot call in the heavy guns. So they will wait until darkness and then they will pull back and the station will remain in Japanese hands, and tomorrow another platoon will try and more men will die and the cycle will repeat until Manila is nothing but ash and ghosts. This is not acceptable. Not to Rodriguez. Not today. He is 20 years old, born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, the son of Mexican immigrants who taught him that some things are worth more than survival. He enlisted because it was the right thing to do, because men like him do not wait for someone else to stand up when the moment demands action. He is not particularly tall, not particularly loud, not the kind of man who draws attention in formation. But he has something that cannot be taught in training. He has the ability to look at impossible odds and see not a wall but a seam, a crack, A way through if you are willing to pay the price. He looks at the map in his mind. The station is 100 yards ahead, a concrete monstrosity bristling with guns. Between here and there is a wasteland of rubble, offering almost no cover, swept by overlapping machine gun fire. But 60 yards ahead, off to the left flank, there is a house, or what remains of a house. 3 walls still standing, part of a roof, enough structure to provide concealment and maybe, just maybe, an angle of fire that the Japanese have not fully covered because they are focused on the direct approaches. If someone could reach that house, if someone could get a Browning automatic rifle into position there and start putting accurate fire into the station, if someone could make the enemy think the attack is coming from a different direction, force them to split their attention, disrupt their command and control, then maybe, just maybe, the platoon could advance. Maybe the station could fall. Maybe the men already dead would not have died for nothing. Rodriguez does not announce his plan to the lieutenant. He knows what the answer would be. Suicide mission, unacceptable risk, stand down. So he does what soldiers have done since the First War. He catches the eye of the man next to him and waits to see if that man understands. Private First Class John Rhee understands. Rhee is from Tacoma, Washington, a quiet man with steady hands and the kind of calm that makes other soldiers feel safer just by proximity. He is older than Rodriguez by a few years, old enough to have a wife back home, old enough to know exactly what he is risking. He has seen Rodriguez in combat before. He knows that when Rodriguez gets that look, that focused intensity that shuts out everything except the mission, something is about to happen. And he knows, without a single word being spoken, that Rodriguez is about to do something insane, and that he cannot do it alone. Rhee nods once. Rodriguez nods back. That is the entire conversation. They check their weapons with the ritualistic care of men who understand that a jammed rifle is a death sentence. Rodriguez has a Browning automatic rifle, 20 pounds of wood and steel that can spit out 500 rounds per minute in the right hands. Rhee has another. Between them they have a dozen magazines, maybe 250 rounds if they are lucky, and as many grenades as they can carry without slowing themselves down. It is not enough. It will never be enough, but it is what they have. Rodriguez takes a breath, not a deep one, just enough to fill his lungs and center himself. Then he moves. He does not run. Running draws fire. He moves in a low crouch, using the rubble for concealment, picking his path with the care of a man navigating a minefield. Every step is calculated. Every pause is behind cover. He can hear Rhee behind him, matching his rhythm, covering the angles Rodriguez cannot watch. The distance to the house is 60 yards. It feels like 60 miles. The Japanese do not see them at first. The defenders are focused on the main American position, waiting for the next assault, firing occasional bursts to keep heads down. Rodriguez and Rhee are moving along the flank, outside the primary kill zone, using dead ground and collapsed walls to mask their approach. But dead ground only works if you stay low, and staying low means moving slowly, and moving slowly means more time exposed, more chances for someone to notice the two shapes sliding through the ruins like ghosts. 20 yards from the house, a Japanese soldier spots them. The shout is high-pitched, urgent, cut off almost immediately by the bark of Rodriguez's bar. The soldier drops, but the shout has been heard. Suddenly the air around them is alive with bullets, snapping past their heads, kicking up geysers of pulverized concrete, the sound like ripping fabric amplified 1,000 times. Rodriguez does not stop. Stopping is dying. He sprints the last 10 yards, dives through the shattered doorway of the house, rolls, comes up with his rifle already tracking for targets. Rhee crashes in beside him a heartbeat later, breathing hard, bleeding from a shallow cut across his cheek where a stone fragment caught him. They are in. The house is a ruin. The roof is half gone, letting in shafts of smoky sunlight that illuminate the dust hanging in the air like fog. The walls are pockmarked with bullet holes, some old, some fresh. There is furniture here overturned and smashed, the remnants of a family's life scattered and broken. A child's shoe, a photograph in a shattered frame. Rodriguez does not look at these things. He cannot afford to. He moves to the window facing the railroad station and sets up his firing position with mechanical precision drilled into him by endless hours of training. From here, the angle is perfect. He can see the station's flank, the firing ports that the Japanese thought were protected, the doorways where reinforcements are moving, the machine gun nests that have been chewing up American assaults all morning. He can see all of it, and more importantly, he can hit all of it. Rodriguez opens fire. The Browning automatic rifle is not a subtle weapon. It announces itself with a roar that shakes the walls of the ruined house, a staccato thunder that drowns out thought. Rodriguez fires in controlled bursts, the way he was taught, 3 to 5 rounds at a time, walking his fire across the station's flank. He sees a Japanese soldier go down, then another, then a cluster of 3 men trying to reposition a machine gun. He stitches them with bullets and they collapse like puppets with cut strings. Beside him, Ree is firing 2 picking targets with the calm precision of a man at a rifle range, as if there are not 300 enemy soldiers trying to kill him. Together, they create a crossfire that the Japanese did not anticipate, cannot counter, cannot ignore. The defenders are forced to turn, to redirect their fire, to pull men from the positions facing the American platoon and send them to deal with this new threat. And that is the point. That is the entire strategy. Rodriguez and Ree are not trying to capture the station by themselves. They are trying to create an opening to force the enemy to make a mistake, to buy time and space for the platoon to advance. They are a hammer smashing into the anvil, and if they can hit hard enough, fast enough, something will break. Rodriguez burns through a magazine in less than a minute. He drops it, slaps in a fresh one, keeps firing. His shoulder is starting to ache from the recoil. His ears are ringing so badly he can barely hear Ree shouting something next to him. The house is filling with smoke from their weapons, making it hard to see, hard to breathe. Spent brass casings pile up around their feet, clinking like obscene wind chimes. The Japanese return fire is ferocious. Bullets slam into the walls of the house, punching through plaster and wood, sending splinters flying. A round passes so close to Rodriguez's head he feels the heat of it. The window frame disintegrates under sustained machine gun fire. Ree grunts and drops down, clutching his arm. Blood seeps between his fingers. He looks at Rodriguez, shakes his head. Not bad, keep going. They keep going. Rodriguez cannot count how many men he has killed. 10, 20, more, it does not matter. For every man who falls, another takes his place. The station seems to vomit soldiers, an endless stream of them, all firing at the house, all trying to overwhelm the 2 Americans through sheer volume of fire. The walls are disintegrating. The floor is littered with debris and blood and brass. Rodriguez can feel the building shaking every time a grenade explodes nearby. This position will not hold much longer. He hears shouts from behind, from the American lines. The platoon is moving. They are using the distraction, using the chaos Rodriguez and Ree have created. They are advancing, finally, pushing toward the station while the defenders are split and confused. It is working. The plan is working. But working is not the same as surviving. A grenade lands in the room. Rodriguez sees it, a dark oval shape bouncing across the floor, and his body moves before his mind can process the threat. He kicks it back through the window, throws himself flat, pulls Ree down with him. The explosion outside is a physical blow, a wave of pressure that rattles his teeth and makes his vision swim. When he lifts his head, His ears are bleeding. Ree is screaming something at him, but Rodriguez cannot hear the words. He can only see Ree's lips moving, see him pointing toward the back of the house. More grenades. They have to move. The Japanese are trying to flush them out, trying to collapse the building on top of them. Staying here is suicide. But leaving is worse. The moment they step outside, they will be in the open, exposed to fire from 3 directions. The Japanese know where they are now. They will be waiting. Rodriguez looks at Ree and sees his own thoughts reflected back. We are not getting out of this. Not both of us. Maybe not either of us. Ree makes the decision. He grabs his rifle, checks his remaining ammunition, and nods toward the door. We go forward, not back. Forward. Rodriguez understands. They came here to make a difference. If they are going to die, they will die on their feet, taking as many of the enemy with them as they can. This is not bravery. This is mathematics. This is the cold calculus of combat. Their lives weighed against the lives of their platoon, against the mission, against the possibility that Manila might fall one day sooner because of what they do in the next 5 minutes. They move. Out the back of the house, into the rubble field beyond, pushing closer to the station even though every instinct screams at them to run the other way. They are in the dead space now, too close for the Japanese mortars to reach, close enough that some of the machine gun positions cannot depress their barrels low enough to track them. It is a temporary advantage bought with insanity. They use it. Rodriguez sees a cluster of Japanese soldiers regrouping near a shattered wall, trying to organize a counterattack against the advancing Americans. He empties half a magazine into them before they even know he is there. Ree is moving beside him, firing, throwing grenades, his wounded arm forgotten or ignored, functioning on adrenaline and willpower. They are a 2-man wrecking crew, utterly exposed, completely committed, beyond the reach of help or reason. A Japanese officer emerges from the station, sword drawn, screaming orders. Rodriguez shoots him. The officer falls. The men around him hesitate just for a second, and in that second Ree throws a grenade that lands perfectly among them. The explosion is catastrophic. Bodies fly. The counterattack dissolves into chaos. But the station is not falling. There are still too many defenders, still too many guns, still too much distance between the American platoon and the objective. Rodriguez can see his brothers advancing, using fire and movement, taking casualties, buying ground with blood. They are closer now, maybe 50 yards from the station. But 50 yards might as well be a mile if someone does not keep pressure on the defenders, keep them disrupted, keep them from organizing. Rodriguez keeps firing. Ree keeps firing. Their ammunition is running low. Rodriguez can feel the weight difference in his magazine pouches, that sickening lightness that means he is down to his last few loads. He does not say anything. There is nothing to say. They both know. A machine gun opens up from a second-story window, tracer rounds arcing toward them like malevolent fireflies. Rodriguez sees Ree pivot, sees him raise his rifle, sees him fire a burst that silences the gun. Then Rodriguez sees something else. Movement. To their left. A squad of Japanese Marines, maybe 8 or 10 men, coming around the flank, trying to cut off their escape route, trying to trap them against the station. Rodriguez shouts a warning. Ree sees them too. They both turn, firing from the hip, no time to aim, just pointing and shooting and praying the bullets go where they need to go. Men fall, but there are too many. They keep coming. Rodriguez's rifle clicks empty. He drops it, pulls his pistol, keeps firing. Beside him, Ree is still shooting, still standing, still fighting. Then Ree goes down. Rodriguez does not see what hits him. A bullet, a fragment, it does not matter. One moment Ree is there, solid and real, and the next he is on the ground, curled around some invisible wound. his rifle fallen from his hands. Rodriguez drops beside him, hands already moving to check the injury, to apply pressure, to do something, anything. It is bad. Rodriguez can see that immediately. The blood is too bright, pumping out too fast, soaking through Ree's uniform in seconds. Ree's face is pale, his eyes wide with shock. He tries to say something but only manages a wet gurgle. His hands scrabble at Rodriguez's arm, gripping tight, pulling him close. Rodriguez understands. He has always understood. This is the moment. This is the choice. Stay with Ree and die beside him, or take his weapon, suppress the advancing Japanese, and run. Leave your brother behind. Save yourself. Complete the mission. Live with the weight of it forever. There is no time to think. The Japanese are 20 yards away and closing. Rodriguez can hear them shouting, can hear the metallic clack of rifles being reloaded. In seconds they will be on him, and then both he and Ree will be dead, and the platoon will lose the covering fire that is keeping them alive, and more men will die, and the station will hold, and it will all have been for nothing. Rodriguez looks into Ree's eyes. He sees understanding there. He sees permission. He sees a man telling him without words that this is right, that this is the only way, that he needs to go now while there is still a chance. Rodriguez takes Ree's Browning automatic rifle. His hands are shaking. He cannot feel his fingers. He wants to say something, to apologize, to promise that he will come back, but there is no time and no words, and they both know the promise would be a lie. So he does the only thing he can. He squeezes Ree's shoulder once hard, a final moment of contact. Then he turns away. He brings the rifle up and fires into the advancing Japanese squad, walking the burst across them from left to right, putting them down with cold mechanical precision. 2 fall. 3. The others dive for cover. Rodriguez does not wait to see if they are dead or wounded. He runs. He runs through the rubble, head down, legs pumping, lungs burning, every breath a knife in his chest. Behind him he hears gunfire, hears screaming, hears the sounds of men dying. He does not look back. Looking back will kill him. Looking back will make him hesitate. Looking back will make it impossible to keep moving. He crashes into the American lines and nearly gets shot by his own platoon. Hands grab him, pull him down behind cover. Someone is shouting questions at him, but Rodriguez cannot process words. He can only lie there, gasping, shaking, staring at the rifle in his hands. Ree's rifle, still warm, still loaded with the last few rounds that Ree would never fire. Behind him, from the direction of the ruined house, the sound of gunfire intensifies briefly and then stops. There is a single shot, then silence. Rodriguez closes his eyes. He knows what that silence means. He knows, and he will carry it for the rest of his life. But the platoon is moving. They are advancing. The covering fire that Rodriguez and Ree provided has shattered the Japanese defensive cohesion. The enemy is disorganized, scattered, trying to regroup but failing. The Americans pour into the gaps, using grenades and flamethrowers and raw aggression to break the resistance. Room by room, floor by floor, killing and dying but pushing forward, always forward, because that is what infantry does. That is what Rodriguez and Ree bought with their blood and their choice. Paco Railroad Station falls 2 hours later. The final assault is brutal and chaotic, a close-quarters nightmare of smoke and screaming and point-blank gunfire. The Japanese fight to the last man, as they have promised, as they always do. When the shooting finally stops, when the Americans plant their flag on the station roof, the building is choked with bodies. 82 confirmed Japanese casualties, most of them killed by Rodriguez and Ree during their impossible assault. 82 men who will never defend another position, never fire another shot, never force another American platoon to trade lives for yards. Rodriguez sits in the ruins afterward, numb and hollow. Someone brings him water. Someone else checks him for wounds and seems surprised that he is uninjured, at least physically. The lieutenant finds him eventually, crouches beside him, tells him that what he did was extraordinary, that the entire platoon owes him their lives, that he will be recommended for a medal. Rodriguez says nothing. There is nothing to say. Medals do not bring back the dead. Medals do not erase the look in Rhee's eyes when Rodriguez took his rifle and ran. Medals do not make it right. They find Rhee's body the next day. He is still where Rodriguez left him, surrounded by spent brass casings and the corpses of the Japanese squad that killed him. His rifle is gone, taken by Rodriguez, but his hands are still clenched as if holding it. Someone closes his eyes. Someone wraps him in canvas. Someone carries him back to be counted among the dead, another casualty in a battle that will claim thousands before it ends. Rodriguez watches them carry Rhee away. He wants to tell them to be careful, that Rhee was a good man, that he deserves better than to be just another body in a war that grinds men into paste and memory. But he says nothing. He just stands there, holding Rhee's rifle, and wonders how he is supposed to go home and tell Rhee's wife that he left her husband behind to die alone in the ruins of Manila. The official reports will be written with clinical precision. They will note that Private Cleto Rodriguez and Private First Class John Rhee, acting on their own initiative and without orders, conducted a two-man assault against a heavily fortified position, defended by approximately 300 enemy combatants. They will note that their actions resulted in an estimated 82 enemy casualties and directly enabled the successful capture of Paco Railroad Station, a key objective in the Battle of Manila. They will note Rodriguez's exceptional courage and Rhee's ultimate sacrifice. The reports will be accurate. They will also be utterly inadequate to capture what actually happened, what it felt like, what it cost. Rodriguez will receive the Medal of Honor from President Harry Truman in a ceremony at the White House. He will stand at attention while the citation is read, while cameras flash, while important men shake his hand and tell him he is a hero. He will accept the medal because refusing it would dishonor Rhee's memory, but he will never feel like a hero. Heroes do not leave their brothers behind. Heroes do not live when their friends die. Heroes exist in stories and propaganda and speeches. Real soldiers just do what needs to be done and try to survive the consequences. John Rhee will receive the Medal of Honor posthumously. His wife will accept it on his behalf. She will hold the medal and the flag and the carefully folded citation, and she will wonder, as all widows wonder, if the sacrifice was worth it. There is no good answer to that question. There never is. The Battle of Manila will continue for another month. The city will be utterly destroyed, block by block, building by building, until there is almost nothing left of the Pearl of the Orient except rubble and ghosts. Over 100,000 Filipino civilians will die, caught between the Japanese determination to fight to the death and the American determination to free the city no matter the cost. When it finally ends, when the last Japanese soldier is killed or captured, Manila will be the second most devastated Allied capital of World War II, surpassed only by Warsaw. But Paco Railroad Station will not be among the objectives that has to be taken twice. It will fall on February 9th, 1945, because two men decided that the mission mattered more than their lives, and because one of them chose to live with the guilt of survival rather than die with the comfort of shared sacrifice. This is what war does. It takes ordinary men and puts them in extraordinary situations and demands that they make choices no human being should have to make. It offers no good options, only gradations of terrible, and it punishes hesitation with death. Rodriguez and Rhee were not heroes. They were soldiers. They did what soldiers do. They saw what needed to be done and they did it, and the cost was everything. Years later, long after the war, Rodriguez will be asked about that day. He will be asked about the assault, about the fighting, about the moment he decided to move forward when every sane instinct told him to stay down. He will answer these questions with the quiet dignity of a man who understands that words cannot capture experience. But when he is asked about about the moment he left his friend behind, he will go silent. His eyes will focus on something far away, something only he can see. And after a long pause, he will say only this: "He gave me permission. He knew. We both knew." That is the truth of it. That is the weight Rodriguez carried home from Manila and never put down. Not permission to abandon a friend. Permission to survive. Permission to complete the mission. Permission to carry the memory and the guilt and the awful mathematics of combat that says sometimes one man living is worth more than two men dying. It is not a calculation anyone should have to make. It is not a burden anyone should have to carry. But war does not care about should. War only cares about what is. Manila will be rebuilt. The railroad station will be repaired and put back into service. The ruins where Rodriguez and fought will be cleared away and replaced with new buildings, new lives, new memories. The physical scars of battle will fade. But some scars do not fade. Some scars live in the spaces between heartbeats, in the silence before sleep, in the names that survivors whisper when they think no one is listening. Cleto Rodriguez, John Rhee, 2 men against 300. One came home, one did not, and the one who came home carried both their names for the rest of his life. That is the story. That is what happened on February 9th, 1945 in the ruins of Manila, when courage and desperation and impossible odds collided and created a moment that would be remembered in medal citations and history books, and the private nightmares of a man who survived. It is not a clean story. It is not an easy story. Real war stories never are. They are messy and brutal and morally complicated, and they end not with triumph but with exhaustion and grief, and the slow realization that victory has a price that cannot be calculated in advance and can never be fully paid. This is what those 2 men did. This is what it cost. This is why we remember. If you made it to the end of this story, if you felt even a fraction of what these men endured, then please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button if you believe stories like this deserve to be told. If you believe that the names of Rodriguez and Rhee should not be forgotten. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think about the choice Rodriguez made. Tell me whether courage means staying with your friend or completing the mission. Tell me how you think you would have responded in that moment when Rhee went down and the Japanese were closing in, and there was no time left for anything but instinct and action. These are not easy questions. They are not meant to be. They are the questions that Rodriguez lived with for decades afterward. They are the questions that every soldier who has ever had to leave someone behind carries in the quiet spaces of their lives. And maybe, just maybe, by asking them, by thinking about them, by refusing to let these stories disappear into comfortable abstraction, we honor the memory of men like John Rhee who gave everything, and men like Cleto Rodriguez who gave everything they could, and then had to live with what was left. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. And thank you for understanding that behind every medal, behind every citation, behind every story of heroism and sacrifice, there is a human cost that can never be adequately measured or repaid, only acknowledged and carried forward into whatever future those sacrifices help to make possible.